What's cracking, everybody? So a while ago, I was up in Sunderland, Massachusetts on the shores of the Connecticut River that flows through the town there, right? And I was trying to make a video about a really crazy story that I read in an old history book. But then when I got home and looked at the footage, I just really wasn't happy with the way that I delivered the story. And also I wasn't happy with the way that I tucked my t-shirt into my underwear somehow. So I just sort of like shelved that video, you know, and I was thinking, oh, I'll get back to Sunderland one day, oh, I'll cover that story one day, but it's been quite a while now, and I still don't really have any plans to go back up to Sunderland anytime soon, so I just gotta get this video out here, because this is one of the like wildest little stories that I've ever uncovered in doing this channel, right? So I just gotta tell people about it, because that footage has been burning a hole in my hard drive, and this story has been like searing a hole in my skull for too long now, so people have to know about it. So I just got my phone here. I'm just gonna kind of like read you through this story. This is gonna be a real casual video, right? So this comes to us from a book called History of the Town of Sunderland, Massachusetts, published in 1899. So when you're looking through the table of contents in this book, everything seems a little bit dry, right? Like you got boundaries and division of lands, and the proprietors, administration, and ownership. Very basic stuff, right? And then all of a sudden you see geese, just out of nowhere, right? Sticks out like a sore thumb. So when I first saw that, I was like, I gotta find out what this goose story is. So I'm scrolling through the book, I get to the goose story, and I read one of the craziest little half pages that I've ever seen in any history book ever. So let me just walk you through this. Oh, and by the way, as far as I can tell, nobody really knows about this. Nobody else has reported on this, either now or back then. I couldn't find this story in any other history books, no newspaper articles, there's no other YouTube videos about it, nothing. So this is just one of those things that just kind of lost to time, and now it's time to resurrect it. So right away, he sets the stage for us, right? He says that in the late 1700s, early 1800s, apparently there were a couple members of the town of Sunderland that just owned like ginormous flocks of geese, like way too many geese. So many geese that it was super annoying for the rest of the town to have to deal with, right? Like apparently they would cause property damage around town, and sometimes two huge flocks would be on their way down to the Connecticut River, and they would intersect in the middle of town and just gum up the highway for like hours. Like imagine that scene, right? Just the cacophony of hundreds of geese squawking, two flock owners on either side trying to separate their geese from the other flock, and a bunch of members of the town just standing there with their arms folded, trying to get their buggy down the road so they can get to work. So the townsfolk want to do something about this, right? And first they tried the court. You know, they sued the flock owners for damages around town, and then they tried to get the geese taxed as property. I'm assuming to try to like de-incentivize owning such huge flocks, but none of that worked, which meant it was time to take more drastic measures. And one frosty morning, the flock owners woke up, rubbed the crust out of their eyes, and realized that they don't hear anything. Silence. They go over to the frosty window, rub out a little peeping hole, and see nothing. Empty fields. Their geese are gone. So they rush out the front door, and in the distance they hear cackling, squawking down by the Connecticut River. And they run down to the shores to see hundreds of geese boxed up, floating down the river. Just imagine this scene. Like, look how beautiful and serene the Connecticut River looks right now. Can you even imagine that over 200 years ago, there was hundreds of geese in boxes floating down here, terrified, screaming? So the flock owners wanted to do something about this, right? They're not gonna let this slide. They just lost their whole flock down the river. So they decided to go to the courts. But guess what? The whole town stayed silent. They only had one guy give any sort of witness testimony, and he said that late at night, in the wee hours of the morning, he heard someone outside his window say something along the lines of, "Oh man, the toughest goose I had to deal with tonight was old Ben Graham's gander. Real tough customer." But apparently, even that one witness might have been one of the ringleaders of the group. Like, some guy got asked in court if that witness was capable of telling the truth, and the guy said, I guess he could tell the truth if he really wanted to. Okay, so are you thinking what I'm thinking here? There is no way that just a couple people did this, right? If there were really hundreds of geese How on earth could just a few people, a small party of people, box them all up in one night and send them down the river without anybody pointing the finger at anybody, without anybody hearing anything, without anybody being accused, with complete silence? So no, you ask me, this was a coordinated effort by the non-goose owning population of the town of Sunderland to rid themselves of the goose plague that had been bothering them for so long. And afterwards, they pledged a vow of silence, taking their secret to the grave. So just imagine, you're a townsmember in Sunderland. You're so sick of these geese. They block you from getting to work. They cause damage to your house. They're loud, they're so annoying, and these flock owners seem to want to do nothing to stop it. So you hatch a plan, and late one night, you hear a knock on your window. You rise from your bed, your eyes adjust to the dark, and you peer out of the pane of glass and see in the moonlight your neighbor standing there, eyes wide, boards, nails, and hammers in his hand, and he looks at you and whispers, "It's time." Thanks for watching.